Alright, I think I'm live. I am live for episode 114 of Trek Live. Just me. It's going to be a lot of face-to-face kind of, conversation with myself. If that makes a lot of sense. I didn't have any really graphics, so I kind of threw together a slideshow, so you guys wouldn't be bored just, watching my ugly mug. So, okay. Why is it just me? Bill is on shore leave right now, and we did not want to leave you guys without some Star Trek content, so here I am. This is not my first solo live show. This is my second, I believe. But yeah, we should have a fun time. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. I don't have anything, I'll get into it, but I don't have anything for Eisenberg, but I will, yeah, Aaron Eisenberg, yes. The ship that I'm building. Alright, let's get into it. Our usual kind of rewatch update. I watched 2 episodes this week. It was, let me check here. It was Journey to Babel and Metamorphosis. So that's the one with Journey to Babel as kind of like the murder mystery, and then Metamorphosis is the episode with Severin Cochrane, and he's stuck on this planet. It's okay. But I kind of wanted to talk about a conversation Bill and I had about Cat's Paw. Now, Bill and I have had this conversation before where us being constant rewatchers, it is tough to let not the Twitter sphere affect your judgment of how you perceive the episode. So I was coming into Cat's Paw with knowing that it was going to be a little bit outlandish, a little bit out there, as such as TOS can be. But this, I think Cat's Paw can be on another level sometimes. But as I was watching it, I was really surprised. I was like, the first not half of the episode, maybe the first, 20 minutes, I dare say, is fine. And then it just goes off the rails. And then I see where, everybody, why everybody quotes that as a little bit out there. But, yeah, so I think it's as I rewatch things, I have to constantly remind myself to kind of turn off the Twitter, what people, the majority opinion on Twitter is, and on other avenues of social media where there's lots of content and kind of discussions about these episodes. So I don't turn them off. I like to read them. I like to hear people's opinions, obviously, but I try to not let them influence how I perceive the episode. So that's a kind of tip or trick to anybody who's a constant rewatcher like Bill and I. I think that would be kind of a fun episode to do, maybe down the road, here on Trek Live, is tips to watching Trek, or rewatching Trek, or binging Trek, whatever we kind of come up with. But that is that. So yeah, I guess that went a lot faster than I expected it to, but yeah. Let's talk about the ship I'm building. You guys have all seen it. This might be just all messed up, but yeah. Let me bring this up here. There we go. Alright, so you guys have seen this before, obviously. It is the ship I'm building. Now, where has it been? I want to talk to you guys about the creative process a little bit. And this may be not Trek related, but I feel like it's something I kind of want to talk about, so you guys don't think I'm just, blowing this project off. I am still working on it. So, how my process is I like to, with anything, and not just, obviously the Eisenberg, but I like to, I want to give you an insight into my process because you guys could kind of see that it's not very easy. It takes a lot of time. So I usually like to concept pretty heavily and make sure every I is dotted, every T is crossed. Because, as I'll explain in a minute, it can get pretty complicated. So I usually do an initial model. So it'll be bare bones. Just get the bones together. And then it'll be a detail pass, getting all the small little details, the railings, the windows, if I want any, navigation lights and domes and other little niche things. And then, after all that takes a long time, especially with a big ship like that. It can take a long time. And I think what makes a really good ship design is those little details that, the ship has that 50-foot look, as it were, but it looks great from afar. It looks fast. It looks futuristic. But I think I also really appreciate a ship design that has kind of focused on the details, really. Details meaning it does. I mean, we could go on and on about the details, but moving right along on the process. So once the model is done and I'm happy with it, then I move on to kind of making it look good. So that kind of takes a few passes as well. You kind of get the initial color down in the that you want, but there's also shading techniques too that I try to work in there. But that's kind of that second pass of putting some color on it and making it come alive and not just a gray block that you guys have seen. Once that is done, that could take a while because there's lots of colors. Again, it's the same with the modeling. You gotta focus on the details, and getting the texture right and all that. Once that is done, now it comes a kind of a two-parter. So it has to be lit. So just like any set, like we see here. TOS, that's not a set, but the TOS transporter room, that has to be lit with external lightings. It's the same thing with 3D modeling. So you can do some inner glow stuff. You can do a little bit that helps with shading too, but it does have to be lit like any old scene. So I do that. That can take a while too. I generally try to do a little bit simpler of a lighting setup because I'm just so itching to just see it and get it rendered out. So then once that's lit, there has to be some camera movements, obviously, because I want to do some panning and slides and wide shots and different angles of the ship. So I'll animate that. That can take a while as well. And then maybe put anything in the background. I probably won't with this one, but I've put planets or stars or stuff like that. So I don't think I'm gonna do that with that because I just really want to see this project through. So it is a process. It can take a long time. So that's why you guys haven't seen it for a while. I've still been working on it, but it's just work in progress. So that is the Eisenberg update. I'm really excited to kind of see It's hard not to try to jump forward in the process, but I think if I put the time in, I think it's going to come out a lot better than if I just kind of rush it just to get it out there. So I want to take my time. I don't want to rush anything because, again, I said it. I want it to be good. So, so that's a little bit into my creative process. Just so you can guys get an insight into what it really takes to, put together a decent ship design. So, hey Rob, good to see you. I'll move on to a little bit of a shameless plug. This week, Thad and I had our first course setting. Thad, he filled in for Bill as he was still on shore leave. It was a great time. We talked about Picard, which is really buzzing right now. I can't believe it. But yeah, that was a great time. So definitely check out Course Heading. That's our new podcast dedicated to New Trek and covering New Trek. We will still have stuff here on Trek Live. So don't be scared. Trek Live isn't going anywhere just because we got this new shiny podcast about. We still want to talk about the greater Star Trek universe. So this is going nowhere. I can assure you. Yes. I will kind of move into the Star Trek content of the week. I'm trying to make this a pretty quick update, maybe 20-25 minutes. Just because without Bill, I don't know. It's not the same. Yeah, Rob, you'll have to tune in next week to check it out. It's a really fun time. I know it's kind of a later time for you guys over there across the pond. So maybe I think we're working out something, a little bit of a teaser and spoiler here. We're working out because Thad, he stayed up till 3 a.m. Eastern time here in the States to watch it because that's when it was released. It's 12 a.m. Pacific, I believe. So it's 12 for me. So we're working up, staying up, but yeah. All right, back to Star Trek content. E.C. Henry just posted some. Every Trek channel out there is posting about Picard, but E.C. Henry did post about Discovery-looking ships in Star Trek Picard, so that's definitely a great watch. Yeah, it's Trek is no stranger to recycling resources. We talked about in Course Heading, but Star Trek has always done a set redress or do the the landscape paintings. They've used that forever. They've used CG stuff forever. So it's Trek is no stranger to recycling old stuff, which is, I guess, in the long run saves money. And if it puts episodes of Picard out, I'm fine with it. I'm not one of those people that really gets enraged about seeing Discovery ships, looking ships in not the right time. But yeah, so that's my Trek content. Yeah, I guess anything else, Rob, that you can think of? If you have any questions, shoot. I have an open book. Speaking of open book, Rob has a wonderful Trek book club that you guys should check out. It's just amazing on Twitter. Definitely check it out. Yes. Actually, I could talk about next week. That's a thing. I'm not
I can actually do my job and tell you what guys is coming up next week. Let's see here. Bear with me.
All right, so we will have another course heading episode for Picard episode 2. Bill and I will hopefully be covering that Thursday night, possibly Friday at some point. But the next, I already mentioned course heading, but the next Trek Live episode, this podcast that we're on right now, is a character spotlight on Charles Tucker III, Trip Tucker. He was the engineer on Enterprise. Both Bill and I are very fascinated and love anything talking about Trip Tucker. So we've done kind of character spotlights before. I think there's some interesting things to talk about specifically with that character and how that character ended in the greater Star Trek universe. I know that I think he may have come back in the books with Section 31. I think, Rob, we're trying to push for a different guest every week. So Bill technically hasn't been on the course setting, so he would be a new guest, but he's not a guest. We're just gonna do rotating hosts. So we do have I call it a short list, but it's growing and growing and growing of the people who we want to have on core settings. So I definitely want to work that out to get people on and talking about not just Picard, but after. Can't think of a few people who are big Trip fans, so I'll spread the word. Thank you, Rob. You've always done a great job supporting our show, and we really appreciate it. Let's see if I have any final questions. I don't think so. I think I'm gonna pop off. I'm not gonna be on here as long as I have to be. I just wanted to get you guys some Star Trek content, talk a little bit face to face, what I was thinking through the week, with my perspective on the Twitter stuff influencing my rewatch. And I'll backtrack a little bit. It's not a negative thing. They do push me to watch more. But at the same time, I don't want to bring in their kind of influences. So you got to find that balance, especially with Twitter stuff. Yeah, Rob, hope all is well with you. Hope to see you next weekend for Trek Live and maybe for course setting. So I am off screen. Maybe that would be fun too to do. Maybe bring that back, some Star Trek Online. I have been playing a little bit on a different account. So, yes. All right. You guys know the drill. The discussion does not have to stop here. The best way to get a hold of us is Twitter, Facebook, Bill's Instagram, and especially the Discord server. The Discord server has been a pretty good alternative discussion stomping ground, as it were. We talk about the Star Trek Picard in there. It's a great time. So if you want to become part of the Trek Live community on the Discord server, DM Bill and I on Twitter, and we can get you set up so you can join the conversation there. That being said, I'm gonna take off. again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. We couldn't do this without you. You guys make this show. We'll be back next week. Thanks for watching.